Lynn and Eric, thank you all so much for participating in my project. Of course, I interviewed Eric before, so this is primarily to interview Lynn. Um, but I think it'd be great to have some discussion and what have you. Lynn, could we start off by you saying a little bit about yourself?
I'm a retired social worker and temporarily retired medical interpreter with Spanish. Um, had to stop because of COVID. Really liked it. Um, Eric and I met in Peru, and we both speak Spanish from a long time back. So that's one of our friendship bonds. And I've lived an interesting life so far. Um, had a big accident recently where I broke my hip and my um, ankle, and been recuperating. I'm still in a wheelchair, but I'm starting to walk.
Wow, so you're having to do like physical therapy every single day and uh,
As much as Medicare will pay now, which is a couple times a week.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah. But I was in a facility where I got it several times a week. Yeah, but I'm home, and it's been an interesting thing to be in a wheelchair. But anyway, that's about me. I'm a cat lover, and Eric and I knew this cat this summer, and I ended up with her. She was going to be homeless in Aiken, Minnesota, if we didn't bring her here. So anyway, I'm not very knowledgeable about many things.
I
So
but I mean, but you've had amazing experiences going to Peru, learning Spanish, dealing with people during traumatic, life-changing events, and helping them to connect to the resources that they need. I mean, you're going through kind of a life-changing event at the moment. I mean, hopefully, uh, you'll be back to normal soon.
yeah.
Um, so I'm kind of curious in what you think about the future of humanity. Like, do you think humanity is on a good track and things are going to get better and better and better indefinitely, or is there corrective action needed, or um, do you think it's hopeless and we're just all sort of surviving?
I tend to be more toward the latter suggestion than the former. I'm very discouraged by the United States and the millions of people that are so anti-science and anti-vax, and just flouting science and medicine. And it's frightening to me that there's like a cult. Well, there's a cult mentality, and it's really frightening to me. I've usually been a pretty optimistic person, I think, but it's really hard for me to maintain that stance that I have a lot of hope. I want to have hope, but it's hard. It's hard with the people that are just going around risking other people's lives because they want their freedom. That kind of a thing that's going on now really disturbs me.
Yeah. Um, so I mean about this kind of occultish mentality around like the anti-vaxxers, and you'll probably put the flat earthers in the same category, and a whole bunch of other people who are listening to the strongest of the loudest voices and not necessarily um the strongest reasons for things. It's like a kind of a dichotomy of belief over reason, like which one,
Hmm.
and it's almost like if you're in the belief category, then the more that your belief flies in the face of reason and facts, the stronger the belief is, and somehow the stronger it is, truer it feels. I mean, it seems like that kind of phenomenon exists. Is that what you see too?
I do. It's like an unreasonable, just, well, no pun intended, but an unreasonable strengthening of these views that these people have that are just, they just don't make sense. And it's like people that in the past used to like truth. It's like they know it can't be true, but yet they stand by it and they're willing to do violence for these things. And it's like, what? I'm frightened. And it's not just this country, that people around the world that just refuse to do what they can to help all those around them. They don't see it as we're all in this together. And that's where I feel like the United States is slipping away. That whole thing of the common good is not very visible anymore to many.
Yeah, that feeling that we're all in it together, and that uh, if we survive and the rest of society goes in the opposite direction, that's a bad thing. Used to be the feeling, but now it's like, you know, um, it's the priority, I suppose. Take care of yourself and forget about everybody else is the.
It seems to be a lot of what's happening. Mm.
And this must be very distressing for you, since as a social worker, I imagine you had the exact opposite sort of approach to life and things.
I've always felt I was pretty positive, but it's been hard to hang on to that viewpoint. It's just amazing things, just like how do I describe it? Just things that are crazy seem to become the norm anymore. It's like, well, okay. But anyway, yeah, I'm hoping to hang on to my positivity because I've been really high spirited through my ordeal with breaking my bones and all that. I was in a rehab facility for 2 months, and that I never would have thought would be doable, but it was actually pretty pleasant in a lot of ways. And and I've been kind of high spirited. People say, "How could you be?" I go, "I just can't help it. I'm high spirited." So I need to get that back for the people uh, um, in the world.
Yeah, I think we all kind of have like a natural personality that usually like the happy people are always bubbly, even even whenever things are not um, it's all I guess in a way sort of our internal way of dealing with things. Are there, you mentioned there's some crazy ideas that some people believe. Is there anything like new that you've seen? Like um, the anti-vaxxers have been around for a while now, I think, at least a decade or so, and the flat earthers have been around for a while. But anything you've seen in the past year or so that you're like, wow, why are people believing this?
Um, well, the newest thing I can think of is the election. Just like, oh, Trump didn't win. I mean, Trump won by a landslide. And it's like, okay, that's newer. But this is this whole COVID thing where people they don't believe what the hospitals are saying, and I guess there's some wiggle room there that maybe there's some dodgy reporting in some states, especially. But overall, I see these doctors and respiratory therapists begging us on TV to please think of us. We don't have Christmas with our families because we're taking care of your families. And people just acting like they're lying, saying that they're lying. That's that's like a whole new level of, to say that nurses and doctors who are sworn to do what they can to help everyone around them, that they're lying on purpose for maybe for money. That's really twisted to me.
Um, a lot of movies have conspiracy theory plots, where there really is a conspiracy going on. The good guy like figures it out and exposes it, and then life goes on. Um, what role do you think kind of our movie industry plays in that level of thinking about conspiracies, or is it more a symptom as opposed to? Um,
Well, I don't watch a lot of movies like that. um, but I think that perceptions in art and well movies and books and those video games and things, I think they really can shape people um, toward directions that maybe they're already headed, like for any of us. And I don't like to see I don't like to see negative, ugly stuff like a lot of violence. That's I don't like those games that the kids play, Xbox or whatever they are. To me, they're really a skewed version of how life is and how you get justice. So not that I know a lot about them, but I know that a lot of little boys play those violent games, and it scares me to think about that, that they're thinking that that's how the world is, you know. So I do think that Hollywood plays a big role in our culture.
I know so many games are predicated on destroying things as opposed to building things, or creating things, or so much on destructive competition instead of positive cooperation.
Yes, well put.
Um, you know, I think before Columbus came to America, Europe had lots and lots of problems, maybe similar to ours, but on a, you know, uh, obviously not as many people. They didn't have the technology and what have you. And then for a while, a certain type of person came to the United States, somebody that was willing to kind of strike out on their own, somebody who put a lot of emphasis on um, maybe um, people just looking for a chance to succeed. And it, maybe it's uh, naive, but it seems like that there was a time when uh, you really had a kind of a good situation here in the United States, where everybody expected to have to kind of work to get what they needed, and then the children and the grandchildren, the great grandchildren, what have you, just grew up in a really nice place, but they didn't really understood what it took to get that nice place, and they just take it for granted and think it's a natural thing. And now, of course, we've had problems for decades of various types. But whenever I think about us going into space, and creating like a colony on Mars or what have you, I I just wonder if that gives us a chance to sort of kind of recreate a particular type of society again, where there's it's not really possible to go and change everybody's point of view here, but you got to imagine that the type of person that's willing to immigrate to a whole nother planet that you know takes 6 months to get to, and you're going to be gone from Earth at the minimum 2 years between the you know in order to get there, wait for the planets to realign and get back. uh, you're probably going to stay over there. um, I was just wondering if that might be a real good benefit of sort of creating these off-world colonies as a way to sort of hit the reset switch on the way societies are put together and kind of try something new.
That's a unique way of looking at it. um, it could be. I guess if you get the right, and I don't know, an appropriate blend of people who have that mission and a true belief inside that that's how things could be guided. Be an interesting concept to try to teach that kind of mentality to another group of beings, maybe on another planet. But mostly we have to teach ourselves a good way. But that's an interesting way to look at it. Of could be a new start that way, but um, I can't imagine the people who would want to be on a rocket ship and leave Earth. I just cannot. I cannot imagine doing that.
Could you imagine somebody willing to leave a village that they've never ever left before to get on a sailing ship to go to a place that they don't know anybody at, and seems to be. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine those first groups of people that came over from Europe into America, never to go back. I just wonder what type of person was that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, if they were a flat earther, they probably wouldn't have gone. but, uh, but yeah, definitely. Only certain type of people would do that. But this with like it's unproven about coming back to Earth if you go. So maybe that's how a lot of people are thinking, that they don't care if they come back to what they knew. They just want to go for the adventure and see what's out there. And I think I might used to have been that kind of person, but I'm getting more cautious. I used to like rides at the fair, real scary rides, upside down and stuff, but anymore I'm afraid I'll die. I'm very scared and I'm disappointed in myself, but that's how I look at those rides.
But I mean, um, people in their teens, the idea of anything being like deadly to them is just seems so theoretical, like, but as you get older, like I'm in my mid 40s now, it's less theoretical. It seems very, very, uh, you definitely feel like you're moving along that conveyor belt, so.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting comparison between the peoples that came over before and the people that might be going up in the future. Mm. Are they going to be doing psychological screening for the people who leave and go to the moon? I mean, it's not going to be just civilians, is it? Or is it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people have a lot of plans. Some of them are likely to happen, and some of them are not likely to happen. So, NASA is planning to send highly trained astronauts on very short missions to the moon and back. So it'll be very similar to what was done before, except maybe it'll be a little bit longer. They'll have newer technology. We'll have better pictures than we did last time for sure. Um, and Elon Musk has a company called SpaceX that's developing a huge reusable rocket, and he wants to send, you know, create a million-person city on Mars. But other than sort of that overarching kind of plan and real work that's being done on the technology itself to transport things and people to Mars, his company hasn't done any work in terms of what's the ideal colony or who to send or anything. He's strictly focused on the transportation system. So he's building the boats, but who goes on the boats and drives the boats and what they do there, he doesn't. Uh, that's further out in the future. So I think there's going to be a lot of work there, and I think I don't even think we know enough to adequately screen people. I think there's some people we definitely wouldn't want to send, right? you know.
I wouldn't, yeah.
But I mean, in the sense of people who have fear of flying or confined spaces, they obviously would not. This whole COVID thing's been a test to see who can handle confined spaces. So we're getting.
Yeah, I don't want a bunch of disruptors going up there on that on those trips. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
Yeah, those probably we want to leave at home for a while. So yeah, no work like that. But I mean, I'm kind of curious about our plans to send people to the moon in 2024. Had you heard anything about that before Eric mentioned this interview?
No, I hadn't heard that. I might have heard it, but it didn't mean much. But when I hear it from Eric, is so interested in that kind of exploit or exploration that I've been interested in hearing what he thinks and what he's excited about. We've watched a couple launches together, and he always celebrates in his own style when there's a launch. Sends me pictures of jalapeno pizzas.
Oh, that's amazing. So that's
Yeah,
the
he's
obligatory lunch pizza you were talking about.
absolutely obligatory, yes. But yeah, I've always been interested in space, but it's been real subdued for most of my life, real subdued. Um,
Well, I mean, most of the people that aren't excited like Eric or myself are in the space industry usually say the same thing. They didn't know that we were planning to send people back to the moon in 2024. And
yeah.
I've been trying to kind of sort through why it might not be widely known. I have some of my own theories I'm happy to share, but I'm curious and if you have some thoughts on like what they're what NASA should be doing to kind of make it more accessible and meaningful to more people.
um, Escape COVID.
Escape COVID.
um, Well, I don't know. There's so many people who don't believe um, things that are believable, that should be believed. But I guess anymore, truth is getting skewed, and you don't really know what truth is because you got all kinds of people with different reasonings, with different purposes on podcasts and just on like Facebook and the different social media. And so I don't know whether there's really a lot that the government or well, Elon Musk could do. It's just probably going to be lost in, oh, here's another weird direction that they're telling us to go. I don't know. Maybe through schools, they could teach children and then ask the children to share these ideas with their parents and explore what the whole family thinks about leaving Earth, going to the moon, coming back. I don't really have ideas for that. I don't have kids or grandkids, but I just it's our society is so fragmented. I can't imagine really, since you asked that, what could be done other than the people who already are susceptible to scientific exploration and truths. To They already are in the space of believing and wanting more information and proving or disproving their ideas. But the average person, it's a tough one, I think, in this society to try to convince anybody of anything anymore, especially if it isn't negative.
Yeah, I know we're destroying all of our heroes, and everything that has any little bit of blemish on it's considered to be completely bad, you know, and anything that's perfect is obviously a conspiracy. So, it's like uh, so we're in a lose-lose situation, I think.
I hope not, but it kind of feels like that to me. But I really hate to even own that and say that. But there's it's harder to be positive anymore. It's really hard looking at the future and just how people are. People are mean, and they're not afraid to show it. Not everybody, but people that we don't even know can be really mean, and they don't care. It's like, what about just basic civility, giving the benefit of the doubt to those we don't know? um I hate to be negative, but I feel that I am growing negative, but I'm teachable, I think.
Well, and it's also like our political leaders as well, seeing the way they treat each other. They kind of help to set that tone or reemphasize the tone. I mean, uh, you can disagree with somebody on policy. It doesn't mean that they're not a patriot and that they're a bad person or something like that. It's maybe they have different life experiences or different views of the facts. So kind of work with uh, yeah, but it's so much about vilifying anybody that
Mhm,
opposes uh, um, a particular viewpoint, it seems like.
mhm. We're quick to do that here.
So what do you think about this idea of sending astronauts back to the moon and beginning a period of sustained lunar exploration and development? Do you do you think that's a good thing for us to be doing, or do you think it's like a misdirected effort, or it could be good but it's the wrong time? What's your feeling on the matter?
um I think I like the thing you said last, that maybe the time isn't good now. There's so many urgent needs on Earth for feeding people and trying to redirect wars. I've never really been sure that the exploring space was as urgent as many other things, although I know that there's a lot of overlap um, between finding things maybe under the ocean. Um, it's that the human spirit needs to explore. And I think there's a lot of good, but I don't know about living off the earth. and I guess we're learning more about it. But I don't like the idea that we can escape all the ugly things that we're doing to the planet by just moving to another planet. I don't know if that's very kind of us as a species to. And I think some people think about that. Oh, we'll just move to planet B. Um, it's the same with a lot of the people that don't care about the environment. They think they're going to be raptured up, and they don't have to worry about. And I just hate that irresponsible sentiment that leave what you've ruined to the rest of us. So, but it's exciting, and I have no idea what we could learn, but obviously a lot. But I don't know as far as the money it takes. And I'm glad that there's people like Elon Musk involved, not just NASA. So it's not just our taxpayer money that's going into some of this research. But I don't know, I worry about exploitation of the moon, like all these different countries, including us, that want to mine the galaxy for our own profit. That just seems really suspect to me. And we're going to be doing a lot of littering, I think, which I think is unconscionable.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, we need to come up with a plan B because we messed up the Earth. We need some place to go to. The thing though is, I don't think those people are really operating from a really solid set of facts because there's there's no place that's even close to the Earth in our solar system, and then sending massive amounts of people to places, seems really difficult. And whatever we have to do to live there, you could actually do to live in like a polluted Earth, in terms of creating like dome cities and stuff that are completely isolated from the environment. It'd be much easier and cheaper to actually do that on the Earth than it would be to do that someplace else. Um, but one thing that I've been thinking of is I have this dream of actually living on the moon someday, and having like a self-sufficient village, or what have you. And the visibility into our supply chain and our waste chain. I feel like we only see the little part that we occupy, but we have no clue about all the impacts of everything that feed into our food and things that we use in production of energy and the water. And in order to like create this other settlement off the earth, you have to go and recreate some version of that supply chain, and then you have to deal with the waste chain on the end. So I'm kind of hoping that solving that, how do you create that smallest loop problem, helps to give us some tools and insights that actually helps us protect the earth, in the sense of, I mean, like water, for instance, it evaporates from the sea, turns into clouds, move over land. It pours down on houses and lakes and what have you. And then like municipalities take it out of lakes or from wells, pump it into your house, use it one time. It goes into drains, gets, kind of recycled and sent out. Why aren't we creating like filtering technologies that allow for use the same gallon of water, thousands of times in your house? I mean, can you imagine having a washing machine? You load it up with 20 gallons when you buy it, and you never ever use another ounce of water again. That would
Wow,
that would be really awesome, I think.
it would. It would. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if such technologies are possible, but I know one thing is, if we don't try to make them, we never will.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at societies that, thousands of years ago had, sewer systems and, drinking water systems that we think we're so smart, all these years later, that they had this wonderful systems and then we destroyed those people. It's like they were primitive. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's like so funny. I went to go watch a hydroponics farm, and I got to be a hydroponics farmer for a day one time. And one of the things that they do is, um, they put water into like the growth bed, and it fills up, and then they drain it all out, and it fills up, and they drain it all out. And I'm like thinking, oh, okay, because I've done a little electronics work, we'll have like a sensor and a valve and a pump, and I'm thinking about all this stuff. But there's actually this thing called a Bell siphon, which is just a tube with a cap on it that will automatically cause that to happen by just pumping water continuously into the tub. And it's just like, whoa, what a simple solution. Uh, there's like so many simple solutions out there. We only operate from what we know, but what we don't know is bigger.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's an interesting concept. Just one-time use, and it keeps going around serving us. Do we want to use the same bathtub water?
Well, I mean, it's like the water molecule itself you want. You just don't want all the impurities in it. So it's about how do you get the water. I mean, a high energy solution could be using electrolysis to break apart the water into hydrogen and oxygen and then recombine it. And you left everything behind, uh, you know, uh, where you were. You can also boil it too, potentially, and then, kind of it's distilled at that point. So,
You seem very, very positive.
well, I think we can solve the problems that we want to solve. Um, I think that the our biggest problem is not that we can't solve the problems, but we either choose not to or believe that they're impossible or believe that there's somebody else's problems. That seems to be the category. I feel like if we wanted to make this an ideal world, we could. And it's just like, how do you get to that belief? But that goes right back to your thing about why do we have anti-vaxxers and flat earthers and people believing all these things? That's the big challenge. Um, so.
One of my nieces is an anti-vaxxer, and she's on Facebook all the time saying stuff about, and she comes over the other day and wasn't wearing a mask, and her mother, my sister, is 77, and she came in to bring me groceries and no mask, and it's like scary and sad, but so are you being paid for this project, or is this just something you're doing out of huge enthusiasm?
I'm doing this out of huge enthusiasm, but I am getting something out of it. The whole point of the project is personal improvement, uh, getting comfortable talking to people one-on-one by talking to a new person every single day. So I, I'm I feel very comfortable in Zoom meetings and with people that I know in person, but going up to like a random stranger at Starbucks and striking up a conversation is not something I feel comfortable doing. So one of the things I was hoping to do with this project was kind of, um, get over that thing. Of course, with the COVID thing, I had to do everything virtually, but that's expanded my geographic range, which has been good. But between December of last year and the middle of March, I was interviewing people in person. Um, I interviewed people on the streets of Minneapolis and Houston and London and York and Edinburgh. And it was really kind of neat. Now, one night in York, I had interviewed somebody for the day. I was on the way back to my hotel, and this guy was taking a smoke break. I was able to get him to do an interview for me. And I like to joke that's another hazard of smoking, is you just don't know when somebody like me might come in to do an interview.
I have a question. How can a person access these interviews? Is there a way that anybody can access your interviews?
Absolutely. I have a website called countdowntothemoon.org, and I put all the interviews out there unedited. So Eric's is out there too, if you wanted to see his.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and I'm actually also there's this company called Astrobotic that's sending a probe to the moon next fall, and they have this thing where you could buy a little moon box that you can send to the moon too. And so I'm actually putting all these interviews that I'm doing this year on a little micro SD card, and so this interview will actually be going to the moon next year too.
Oh, wow. I just wrote that down. Huh. Very interesting. So have you been your entire life really excited about space travel,
You know,
or more as a grown up?
it's really interesting. So in the 1980s, I think I was in like elementary, middle school. My dad used to take me to the Johnson Space Center here in Houston, and at that time, it was an open campus. You would actually literally walk onto the campus, no security check or anything, into the same buildings that all the employees were in, and they had like little exhibits scattered throughout the campus. And I think I was interested in space before that, but he used to take me there and we used to go explore around. I write down everything that I saw at all the exhibits, and it was really cool. You ate at the like, same cafeteria that the NASA workers ate at. Now the
Wow.
campus is closed off and they have the Space Center Houston, which is, just for visitors next door. It attracts way more visitors, but at the same token, it's all meant for the visitors, so it feels less real than it was, just having access to the campus. But after I graduated from high school, the internet was the big thing, and anybody who knew anything about computers kind of got sucked up into internet-related fields. And so one job led to another, and we really weren't doing much in space then. We were building the International Space Station, doing shuttle flights, but really, I would say the interest really picked up a lot in the past 10 years when you started having like Elon Musk with his Falcon 9 rocket doing landings and, private trips to the International Space Station being talked about and becoming reality, and Virgin Galactic. And then, Jeff Bezos has a space company too called Blue Origin that's right
Mm,
on the verge of doing some things. I think next year they'll launch their first orbital rocket. They've been launching a suborbital rocket for tourists, but they haven't actually launched anybody yet. So I would say that in the past few years it really picked up because it looks like we're actually going someplace. That it's no longer just fiction. It's just where it actually might be happening. So.
wow. Cool. Cool to have a job that you love and that you can be paid for. I mean, that's everyone's dream is to get paid for what you love.
True.
Are you going to be traveling on one of those?
Oh, I have no idea. The price needs to come down lower, or the my economic capabilities need to go up quite a bit. So
Maybe they'll give you a freebie.
maybe they're like you've been asking everybody else if they want to go into space. Let's see how you really think about it. Um, but talking about that, if you could, would you go into space?
I don't think so. Not right now. I'd want to wait till a lot more people did it. It's just like Eric's self-driving car. I want to see it's been around a long time before I go into it.
Uh, and the thing about the self-driving car is you may not be in a self-driving car, but that doesn't mean the cars around you aren't self-driving. So it's almost unavoidable to some extent.
Ah, yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
I know that's a scary thought, isn't it?
Eric has no fear, I think.
I would say I actually drove in a self-driving car from Austin to Houston uh, last year, I think, in 2019. And, it's a pretty cool experience. I mean, it was uncomfortable, having the car kind of steer itself, but it shakes a little while to make every once in a while to make sure that you're still paying attention. And if you're not, then it'll pull over and stop. And then
Really?
there was one place where they were doing road construction and the stripes, they couldn't figure it out. And it's like, you must take over now. It's like you got to grab the wheel and start driving. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
so that's kind of neat. It was a Tesla. Yeah.
So if money weren't an object for you, would you want to go into space?
Um, I I think before I had given a lot of thought, I think the answer was yes. I was also trying to learn to fly, and I don't know. I think the safety things really moved up higher in my mind. I need to see more people go and come back, I think. So
Yeah. Do you have children?
I do. I have one that's just graduating from college, and then one that's just graduating from high school, and he's applying to colleges, hopefully right now as we speak.
Do either of them have scientific bents?
My oldest one does. He's studying. Um, he wants to increase the lifespan of humans, so he's studying biology and computer science, and he's been really studying aging and health and um, the effect of sleep on our lives. And then my younger son, he's had some experience with science, but he's really more interested in the business side of things. So maybe he'll send me one day.
Well, I was thinking that a lot of people with children would have, strong reservations about leaving their families. I don't have any, progeny, and so, but I'm just more scared than I used to be, and I'm disappointed. I used to be really adventurous. I mean, just took off at 27 and went to South America and traveled around and adventured. And I still have that spirit, but it's a lot more muted as I've gotten older. But anyway, I'm really excited about your project. How many people have there been so far? You've been doing it for how long?
Well, I started on December 17th, 2019. So
Okay.
366 plus, um, this would be the 366 plus 11. So 377. This is the
Okay.
377 one. And I have 1,400 and some odd more to go.
Wow. Wow. Well, what an interesting idea that you've had.
Yeah. And maybe I can interview your niece.
Wow. I will put it out to her.
Yeah. How do you deal with the whole kind of different approach in terms of the mask wearing and that type of thing? I mean, I know that's a challenge for a lot of people. Um, uh, I mean, yeah,
Well, I was really disappointed that I didn't put my foot down because she was bringing me groceries and she brings me wonderful homemade foods too. Because I can cook and stuff, but she's been bringing me a lot of wonderful things, and it's just cowardice that I didn't say, Angie, your mom is 77 and I'm 73. You really shouldn't come in here without a mask. But she came in to bring the groceries, and it's like I realized I've dropped the ball there. I should have done it for her mother's sake. And she also went to her mother's, and Joanne had said, no, you can't come in because you don't wear a mask. And then she showed up at her door, and my sister did let her in. Just kind of like, well, and I'm disappointed that I had my chance, especially with my sister here, and saying no. But she's very articulate, and she could tell you, reasons why it's ridiculous to wear a mask. And I get angry, but it's not safe to be hostile toward people anymore. Um, but I guess just it's kind of learning to just let people be, even though they're being unsafe. I'm just trying to take care of what I think I need to do. I'm not going out much because I can't drive right now. But when I do, I wear a mask. And when people come over here, they wear masks. But it's hard to imagine that people don't care. I saw something on some kind of media that said that if it were young people that were mostly affected, people in their 50s under, our parents and our grandparents would do everything possible to keep us safe. And I
yeah,
thought about that spirit that used to inhabit our country, where the majority were civil and cared about people that they didn't even know. And it seems like that's not as much how our society is now. And all we can do is do what we can in our sphere, and be kind and respectful and try to be educated. And that's a huge set of challenges right there.
yeah. And the other side of it is, even if the mask, let's say, doesn't do any good, the question is, does it do any harm? And obviously, if it doesn't do any harm and it makes people feel more comfortable, why not do it? So I mean, for me, it I feel like the bar on the non-mask wearing needs to be on the side of, okay, show me how it's actually hurting. Like you need to, like it's almost like flipped at this point. It's not proof that it. proof that it helps is it almost needs to be, you know, the proof, the level of proof needs to be, does it actually cause some harm, is the thing. So because if it doesn't do any harm and it makes people feel better and comfortable, why not do it?
It's kind of like the people who say that, you know,
Well,
the
I was going to comment on that.
do. Yes, Eric, go ahead.
Huh? What?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, what I was going to say was that it can cause harm if people put on a mask and then think that they're protected, and they go do crazy things like getting enclosed in enclosed environments. So if you become complacent just because you have a mask on, it can actually be detrimental.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. Like I think after seatbelts became a normal thing, fatal accidents had become had shot up a bit because people thought it protected them from getting hurt in car accidents. They were taking more risky, you know, being more risky with the car. So that's a good point. I think you see this about some other things. Like, um, yeah, that's a very good point.
Well, it's like I've known people who did not believe that humans were responsible for or at all for climate change, and I said, but since we don't know for sure, isn't it good to act on the conservative side and assume that we are and do what we can to slow it down, rather than assume that it doesn't matter what we do, it's going to happen anyway. And it's kind of the same principle to me, that why not be safer? Why not be more considerate rather than less so? And it seem like the results will be better in many ways, not just, you know,
Yeah,
scientifically.
no, that's a good point. I heard somebody say that about whether or not humans created, you know, or contributing to global climate change. Their response was, I hope so, because if not, there's no hope for us. You know, we won't be able to control it at all. So that's the other side of it. But well, Lynn, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to? I really appreciate your time and uh,
No, I wish I could say that, yeah, I have a bunch of ideas, questions, but I don't. I really just had I was like a blank slate for what to expect from this. And I really appreciate your energy and your warm attitude and your curious side to be doing these interviews. And I'm honored to be part of it.
well, thank you so much, Lynn. And yeah, if your niece is up to it or anybody else you know, please let me know. I need to find quite a few more people between now and the end of 2024.
I'll really reach out to people. I think people would. Um, I've mentioned it to some groups that I've been part of, some Zoom groups. So I will try that. If you're looking, you're needing to have more people, I'll do my part.
I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Well, Eric, did you have anything you wanted to add, or any? You know, Lynn, uh, is there anything that you're like, wow, Lynn, you should talk about this?
Yeah, well, yeah, she could probably tell a lot of stories for a long time, but it was good interviewing. Thank you so much for doing this, both of you. That's great.
Thank you for being there.
Well, thank you all very much. I guess we'll talk again soon at some point, I hope. And if, I hope feel free to check out the website. It's my my challenge every day is just to interview one person and put it out there, and then you know I got the normal day job stuff and everything else. So I haven't been able to do much more than that over the past year, but it's kind
No,
of interesting.
thanks for doing that much. It's great.
Thank you so much.
Okay, y'all have a good day. Bye bye.
Okay,
All
you
right.
too, both of you. Bye.
Bye.